Biden appointed the DEA, they're going to basically just push this through and we're going to get cannabis rescheduled. That can just as easily happen as the DEA just says, all right, no, there's no scientific evidence. Like we're not rescheduling it. Thank you for coming and good luck.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Trade to Black podcast. Hope you had a great long weekend. Happy Labor Day to all of our viewers. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Hope you all had a chance to stop, pause, get a deep breath. What a week last week with cannabis. Everybody feeling alive, and here we go. Summer is over. We kick in September. We've turned the corner, so what can we expect heading into the week? So let's welcome in the gents. Anthony Verrill, hope you had a great long weekend. How are things?
How's it going? It's good. It's been a good weekend so far. Or it was a good weekend.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the trading week, though.
Exciting anticipation as we head into tomorrow. Benjamin A. Smith, good to see you.
Good to see you. What a week. Amazing
I know.
week. I'm hyped.
I know.
I'm hyped. But, we'll get into the conversation of what it all means. But great week.
Yeah. Before we begin, all views of the Trade to Black podcast, the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or guests as investment advice. And the views on this podcast are solely to be intended to be informational and are not investment advice. As we said, everybody knows cannabis. Everybody watching this is probably eager to see what we can anticipate coming into this week. But before we get into that, just a recap, just so we understand, HHS recommends this is rescheduled. We're hoping, obviously, for a Schedule 3, which would mean bye-bye to ADE and making these companies profitable. So next steps. From my understanding, the DEA needs to respond within a 90-day timeline. So if that's the case, and I think we really want to dive into this, guys, and I'll start with you, Anthony. How realistic is it that the DEA will reschedule this?
I mean, I think it's realistic. I think the conversation's going to be had. I think they're going to look at the research, the science, and just the entire argument and the whole body of work and then make an educated decision. They also might be making an influence decision that Biden's coming down and saying, guys, get this shit passed. I think there's a lot of opacity around the situation. I mean, I think it's great that we're having the conversation. I think that it's probably bodes well that this does look real and authentic this time. And there's several different forces driving this. But it is what it is. I mean, it's an announcement. There's nothing definitive here. There's nothing saying that they have to act. The DEA has now been put on notice from HHS. They have 90 days to give a statement, and then they will give a statement. And they're probably going to take their sweet ass time in the meantime.
Yeah. Ben, what are some of the hurdles? Like, let's say, for example, the DEA does indeed decide to reschedule this. Are there certain hurdles that we will still have to face in the event that does happen? If so, what are they?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some hurdles. There's definitely, I anticipate there's going to be a lot of lawfare because changes to the act or rescheduling of a drug, it is confirmed that it can be challenged in federal court and it is subject to appeal. So there's a ton of groups out there that are against cannabis the legalization and the normalization of the industry. So I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of lawfare going on there. The various challenges are coming. So I don't know whether that's going to go to an injunction or whether, Schedule 3 is going to actually be allowed, or if it's going to be like something like in New York State where there's going to be an injunction passed where licenses can't go through until the ruling comes. That is all to be determined. I'm still parsing information on that, but it's not going to be a smooth road, I don't think, if it does go to Schedule 3. There are groups that are against that, unfortunately.
So when we look at, like you mentioned the word legalization, just so I understand correctly, would cannabis still be rescheduled as a Schedule 3? And there's still, like, as you said, like lawsuits that are taking place trying to prevent this from being legalized. But in the short term, would that not still benefit the overall business side of the industry, knowing that you're moving the cannabis, from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When I said legalize, I was probably the wrong choice of words. I misspoke. It's going to Schedule 3. But yeah, the benefits of 280E, the benefits of probably being able to uplist and getting clarifications from the exchanges, those are all still going to be there. What I was referring to is it's the definitely legal challenges that are coming down the pike with groups that are against the rescheduling of the drug. But and there's also a possibility too that the DEA, there's a lot of assumptions that President Biden appointed the DEA Administrator and Milgram, and that it's automatically going to be Schedule 3. it, it's not that cut and dry process. They go through like an eight
Yeah.
part process where they look at the research, and there's no late phase studies for cannabis itself. So I mean, there are some assumptions I think that are made in the market that it's guaranteed Schedule 3. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I do think it'll be rescheduled, but it's possible Schedule 2 might also be in the cards. It depends. We can't just extrapolate relationships and appointments and say, yeah, it's definitely going to Schedule 3. They've coordinated, it's a done deal. I think that's a probability, but it's not a guarantee yet.
Yeah, timeline wise, we discussed with a few executives last week. Some have indicated potentially Q1 2024. Another executive is thinking we'll have a decision within 90 days. Do you think within 90 days is aggressive, Anthony? Like, do you believe that?
No.
No. Why?
There's not going to be I mean, there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be a response from the DEA within 90 days. And that response can be that we're going to continue to ponder
Yeah.
and and look into our decision. I mean, there's so many bull cases out there. There's so many bear cases out there. Like, I kind of buy both right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the middle and just letting the price action and the tape dictate how I'm going to navigate this and what I'm going to do. This can easily go on. This can easily go. The Biden appointed the DEA. They're going to basically just push this through, and we're going to get cannabis rescheduled. That can just as easily happen as the DEA just says, "All right, no, there's no scientific evidence. Like we're not rescheduling it. Thank you for coming and good luck."
Yeah.
I'm in the middle, like I usually am on a lot of these topics. I'm not getting too excited. I don't think that it's a net negative, and I mean the conversation's being had, and hopefully this time it's real.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I'm just trying to be a realist about it.
yeah, so we've had almost a week now of euphoria as we head into this week. So let's set expectations. More notably MSOs, what a week it had, a lot of its placements, but overall, I guess I'll begin with you, Ben. Do you see the continuation of the rally heading into tomorrow?
Uh, well, that's a good question. I tend to look at the price action and let that judge sort of guide where I think is things are going. I think that you can get a lot of precursors of future action based on what you're seeing. And what I'm seeing from the price action personally is a clear rejection at the 725 area resistance, which
Okay.
sort of stretched back to earlier this year in December. That was a clear area of resistance on the charts that I use at least. And some of the metrics that I use are kind of showing a little bit of possible pullback here. So I wouldn't be surprised if 640 comes into play, maybe all the way down to 590. Do I think the floor has been set in the industry because of this potential catalyst? I do. I think we've
Yeah.
seen the lows.
Yeah.
We're not going to see 480 again, in my opinion, unless there's a complete market meltdown or something like 2008.
Yeah.
I think that the floor has been set. It's just a matter, do I think we're necessarily going to bust through 725 and then reach new levels? I think there's going to be a sort of wait and see period, a give and take period as bulls and bears sort of fight it out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a 640 test at minimum, and kind of take it from there.
What's that say about the floor being set, Anthony?
I mean, I'm trusting Ben on his price analysis. I mean, he was right last week. It rejected the levels that he called, and I mean, I'm with him. I mean, I'm watching the price action. There's
Yeah.
a lot of speculation right now going on Twitter. Oh, the Wall Street Bets people are looking at MSOS like they're
Saw that.
coming in. Like, yeah, that's nice, but I mean, that's not. I don't think it's fundamentally driven. I mean, I don't want to base any of my bets on a bunch of people from Reddit boards piling into a stock because they think it's of value at this point in time. I'm going to take Ben's advice here and kind of look at the tape and watch the price action and where it can go. And they had massive inflows last week. I mean, they've got capital to spend, which can create a feedback loop to where these stocks keep going up. The action could be muted to an extent versus what we saw last week. But I mean, no one's going to really know until we open Tuesday and see how it goes.
So
Yeah.
just to add on that too, like you got to look at things holistically. Like if you're gonna, like, you've had a pretty big move. Granted, the price action's way off the high, so there's a lot of resistance to work through. There's a lot of people who maybe are in at component stocks, MSOS at 9, and their component stocks around that level, and are looking to sell. Right, so you still have a lot of sellers as that are willing to sell at different levels. So if you want to push this higher, what we're going to need is like the institutional guys to come in. You need some institutional money. And right
Yeah.
now, when I look at this, although this is really bullish and I am hyped, I don't see the institutions getting in now because there's still too many uncertainties. So they're not going to buy
Yeah.
until they know this is Schedule 3, until they know that 280 is going to be effectuated, until they know that the uplifts are possible. So right now
You
it's
think there's
great. It's sort of like a tremor before the earthquake. We had this big tremor. You could feel it's
yeah.
like 4.5 on the Richter scale. It's coming, but now we just need the next thing to happen, whether that's safe, whether that's the actual rescheduling, then that's what's going to take it to the next level.
But if the benchmark has been laid, do you think that they're sprinkling in right now? Like sprinkling meaning like no at all?
Well, even look at MSOs, even look at the inflows that came to the market. So when the news was announced that the night or that day it was 15 million, and then on Thursday it was 5 million, and then on
Mm-hmm.
Friday it
Yeah.
was 2 million. So you can see, well, it's great. We have 22 million in inflows. There's a clear decline there. So unless you think MSO is suddenly going to get back up to 15 million or 10 million, then you can
Yeah.
already see sort of the inflows sort of drying up. So that's going
Yeah.
to sort of push price forward. You're going to have to get another big influx of money. So if that doesn't come from the institutional crowd, it would have to come from like Reddit, for example. You'd have to get a mass galvanization. So if you
Yeah.
don't think that that's going to happen at this point, then you probably think that we're going to consolidate here.
Yeah. And I mean, people are drawing parallels to ARK with Kathy Wood when the ARK Invest ETFs, I think, went up 7 or 8x.
Okay.
That was contributed by, I think, between 4 and 5 billion in inflows within a matter of days. I mean, just look at the numbers. We're talking about 22, or what was the last week? We're talking, I think, 18 million in inflows.
Big difference.
Yeah, I mean, but that's institutional capital.
Yeah.
I mean, institutions are not, they're not coming in yet. They're going to wait. They're going to be patient, and they're going to move when there is clear direction as to what's going on. And right now, even though everyone thinks that this is great, and it is great, there's still a ton of uncertainty here. There's more things to be questioned than to be determined.
Yeah, but for those that follow the space closely, if we're going to get a pullback, I'm just looking at this. Let's not freak out here. This is still a long-term
No.
process. And, if indeed it does happen, I think the encouraging thing after last week was that institutions are watching this. But to your point, Ben, I think that they are waiting. But if
Yeah.
everything becomes official, does it seem realistic?
They need
that you
certainty.
could have?
Yeah, they need certainty. If you're an institution, you have a risk management. You have compliance department. You have certain hoops
Yeah,
to go through. You can't bring this to the compliance department and say we're going to grab a big $75 million position as a large
agreed.
fund and be like they're going to be like on what, on a rescheduling recommendation. So it's great.
Yeah.
And they're all, a lot of people, tons of people are looking at this. I don't mean to come across bearish. I am bullish. I think the bottom's in place and all that. But I know to get that real big institutional money, I know what some of these departments need. I know portfolio managers. We talked to people in the industry, and we're not quite there yet. But we
Yeah.
took a big step forward in terms of
Yeah, I know.
people watching, in terms of people ready to get in. There's a lot of money ready on the sideline, but we're not at that point yet. There's still too many
A lot of money.
headwinds.
But as of Monday, September 4th, 2023, cannabis is still classified as a Schedule 1 drug in the US. But optimism, as I said, when we look at these numbers, what a week last week. Air Wellness up 84.9%, Anthony. Columbia Care up 83%. Trulieve 63%. Cresco 58%. MaryMed up 45%. Jushi up 75%. And as a whole, MSOs was up 39%. Good week, don't you think?
Great. It's great. It was a great week. And my honest opinion is this is just coiling up. That wasn't the actual move higher. I mean, this is what happens with just pure retail. This is what happens when half the people I see on Twitter right now are bearish, versus being bullish. I
Are
mean,
they?
imagine when the switch flips and everyone's bullish, and has a reason to be bullish. I mean, these are impressive moves, but I mean, this isn't like the God candles that people think are going to roll in, on these stocks. I think they
Yeah.
can get way, way more aggressive to the upside.
Outlining some of the companies that I just said performance-wise, but who would you guys say, not necessarily invest, but who would you say is your favorite top 5 companies in the space right now?
I'm sticking with Air. I
Air?
would say Air, GTI, Trulieve, Verano, and then who's a flyer I would put on there?
MaryMed?
Yeah. I mean, MaryMed's if you actually look into Maramed and look at their financial engineering, I mean, it's pretty impressive,
Mm-hmm.
especially with what they're doing from a profitability standpoint, and they're very close to being there. I would have to say Maramed, yeah, would be 5 to round that out.
Then you look at your next other 5. You got Tilray in that group, SNDL.
I got a hard time touching those.
Do you?
Yeah, but as we all know, I mean, if this goes parabolic, those 2 names probably will take off pretty aggressively. And I mean, as we know, SNDL has exposure to several U.S. assets.
Yeah. Get a lot of feedback still when people talk about Canopy. Canopy's the next meme stock. It's wishful thinking, but I don't know.
Bruce kind of changed my mentality on Canopy. I mean, I do still think Canopy is very interesting, but with this special shareholders meeting coming up and then potentially already looking to like ring fence their U.S. assets into a completely different entity, which Canopy would have no exposure to, potentially, that changes the narrative completely.
So somebody asked the question. Can you help me out here? So if they actually rebranded, new identity, entity, I should say, with Canopy USA, for example, what would then happen to the Canadian operations? And I would assume that obviously, if they launch Canopy USA, shareholders of Canopy Growth would obviously get shares within that company, correct?
No, that obviously that's not an assumption you can make at all. I mean, there's several different ways that could play out. It matters what they would want to, how they'd want to engineer it, what the votes would come down to.
Yeah.
There's no clear cut direction for Canopy. I mean, you got to think about it this way: Canopy's trading at what? Even after the rally, did they even crack a $400 million market cap last week? Canopy's sitting at a $394 million market cap US. They've got $1 billion in debt Canadian on their balance sheet, and they've got a dwindling cash position. You really got to question what they're going, and they're right sizing their Canadian business where they're losing market share in cannabis sales.
Right.
So you really got to. I don't know where the business goes. It's beyond my pay grade, and there's a lot of speculation we can have as to where Canopy goes. But Canopy proper, as the Canadian entity goes, there's a scenario where it could be just deemed insolvent. I mean, they're flashing signs of an ongoing concern already.
That'd be a major lawsuit. I can't imagine.
I mean,
that.
sure, there could be lawsuits, but where's that going to get you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to be part. I don't want to be.
Anyway. Like,
yeah, I'm not willing to put my capital into the business to find out.
And going concern is always on the financial disclosures of everywhere. So it's not, if they're, I mean, it's already been disclosed for years on their financials. So I don't know if you need something specific. Either way, investors only get pennies on the dollar. But just to get back to the MSOs last week, I found it interesting that the ones with that got shorted the most, the ones that are downtrodden, like Jushi, Air Wellness, Columbia Care, some of the ones that had the biggest concerns about debt levels and about oncoming debt cliffs, about cash on balance sheet, they went up the highest. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because
why is that?
Well, because Schedule 3, if there's no longer the 280E requirement on their balance sheet, they're going to be paying less taxes. They're more leveraged and torqued to help their balance sheet and to get through some of the turbulent times that they have. So keep that in mind for investors. I think that, that wasn't lost on us.
Good point.
I mean, that's why I liked Air so much. They got the shit kicked out of them. Like, Air was sitting there trading for under cash at one point. And I mean, they have a very good core business from an ops perspective.
Do we know
Jushi and Columbia Care? We know why they've gotten killed, but I was surprised to see those two.
I didn't know that there was actually a huge short position apparently on Columbia Care of like 13 million shares, something. I could be off on that, but it was a big position, and it got big, unwound, and it went up. I think the day of it made like 100% move. Like it was crazy.
Shorters are sophisticated investors to take those chances, are they not?
Oh.
Indifferent.
They take advantage of the market conditions, right? They know the catalyst tables, and they know when things are not going down. If there's not a lot of buyers, they'll just keep capping things and setting the bar lower, and they
Yeah.
make money on the downside, right? When there's a big event like this, the algorithms just step out of the way, and then you have movement
Yeah.
of Columbia Care going 60 to $1.20 in a matter of an hour or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shorting in cannabis is not. I don't think it's a very sophisticated trade.
True.
You're battling retail. You don't have funds that are going to come in and blow you out if you get the wrong if you take the wrong position.
Be nice to see that
Um,
day happen, though, wouldn't it?
I like to think of the shorters in cannabis more as like bottom feeders
Hmm.
that are just taking they're manipulating and taking advantage of a very good situation that's going to flip on them very shortly here
And
if we can get this regulatory stuff down closed.
and one thing I know is that I would not. I don't short the cannabis industry at all. I never have, but
No,
I would not short it now, because
No.
if
no,
you have news that is safe, obviously, we didn't talk about this, but the Congress gets back from the summer recess next week. So at any point, and there's rumors floating around from certain executives that we could have a committee vote within 3 weeks. So that would take you to the end of September, maybe October. But at any point, you could have something like that hit, and then we could have another round of upside. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I would not be shorting the industry at all right now. I would be a holder of securities if you've held this long. Unfortunately, if you didn't get out a lot higher, but yeah, it's not a shorting type of industry now. I think we're on a
Mhm.
higher low dynamic.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see as we head into tomorrow morning. Last thing I wanted to touch on, let's switch now to another industry that appears is about to heat up as well, which is actually exciting. It was mergers and acquisitions week last week in the psychedelic space, began last Tuesday with Cybin acquiring Small Pharma, which pretty much on paper classifies them as the leaders in the industry related to DMT research. And then 48 hours later, I don't think this has been discussed enough. We always ask whether big pharma enters in the space, and Ben, they do now. 100%. They bought out Mindset Pharma in an all-cash deal for 60 million USD. Congrats to James Lantier and Joe over at the Mindset Crew team. We're going to have them on this week just to talk about how this deal went down. But I think the most important thing is like, I think on paper, this pretty much signals that big pharma, this is on their radar. They believe in the industry, and they came in and they bought a company out. And I think you could see more big pharma companies coming in and buy out other companies in due time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the biggest narratives that sort of went below the radar. We talked about it, but I didn't hear about this anywhere. Is that big pharma actually, they didn't just do a partnership or a JV or throw a couple $1 million for a little bit of research and take a peripheral interest in a company. They actually bought a company. So they bought Mindfit. They're in. They're going to make this into a division
All
at a
cash
big
too.
pharma is going to make this into a division. They have a pharmaceutical or division or whatever you want to call segment subsidiary in big pharma. It has gone to the big pharma level right now. They are studying these compounds, and Mindset had a huge portfolio of patent and early stage, a lot of preclinical, but it's even some on the clinical side on stage one. Phase one. I might be phase two as well, but they're definitely in the industry, and this bodes well for the rest people, because we know big pharma is more than just interested on the periphery. They are actually getting in. They are acquiring subsidiaries. This is part of their portfolio now.
I know we touched on it a little bit, but there's a few people that commented that they really like the acquisition Cybin made of Small Pharma, which I do too. And you followed actually the phase 2 study of Small Pharma closely, Ben. But this on paper looks like a good acquisition for Cybin and I guess their research portfolio.
Yeah, it does, because I think they were both companies were kind of competing for the same sort of pie. I know Cybin has a deuterated version of their DMT, but it was really kind of the same sort of research going into one direction. So I think by consolidating this, it works out for small pharma shareholders, because then they can consolidate the research and put this into one entity instead of having two
Yeah,
companies sort of compete for the same approval. So, I like
yeah,
the deal. I feel, a little bit bad for, small pharma shareholders who got in at a higher price point,
yeah,
but they do get some of the, equity in Cybin as well, right? So, you take the cash allotment that was from the merger, and you get part of Cybin, and let them take the ball with the research. And, hopefully if they can get that through, it's all going to work out in the end for everybody.
Yeah, you wonder, like, we haven't asked that question enough. Yeah, it seems good for Cybin, but you wonder why Small Pharma made the deal and why now.
I think it's great for small pharma.
You do?
Yeah, they're now part of a that's it's some of the parts game. They now are, as from a shareholder perspective. If I'm a shareholder in small pharma, like I now just got my percentage chance of hitting a moonshot in this space. I mean, just greatly increased because now if 003 is a smashing success for Cybin in the psilocybin space, me as a small pharma shareholder, I'm now directly correlated to that success. And they're doubling down on the DMT research that I invested in.
Yeah.
From a small pharma investor perspective, like, yeah, it sucks optically, knowing where you're at from a pricing standpoint, but your degree of hitting a serious return just multiplied
Outweighs.
by some of the parts. Yeah, I would have voted for this in a second if
Hmm.
I was a small pharma
Yeah, it's a
shareholder.
good point. They get some exposure to the other programs that they didn't have before. Because Small
Yeah,
Pharma actually had a couple other
Yeah.
programs, but they were small, they were undeveloped, they were really
small
off the radar.
yeah,
They get exposure to like,
small pharma's their shareholders now own 25% of Cybin.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a pretty big chunk. Like if 003 hits, if Cybin has some other massive success, like they are direct beneficiaries of that in a pretty big way.
Yeah. Well, we called it, and it's not like a genius to figure this out, but mergers and acquisitions. Can't believe how quickly they become, like 2 in 1 week. But we will see more of this. But the great thing is that Cannabis, Psychedelics, they both have turned a corner. We got Maps's readout that's imminent as far as those happening. Hopefully, at some point here in September. Keep hearing stories that it could happen between now and the middle of September 15th. Don't quote me on that, but here's hoping that it does, and they're very groundbreaking. But if they are, then we've got two really hot industries with big growth upside over the next 6 to 9 months, right?
Yeah, and I'm assuming a company like Otsuka could probably make more acquisitions in the space if they wanted to, if they thoroughly believe in psychedelics and they want to go after other parts that mindset isn't covering. I mean,
I never even thought of that.
yeah, I mean, if they're a tier one if pharma company. I mean, they've definitely got healthy budgets, and I'm sure they've got a ton of cash.
Ben, what do they
So
do
I
in
mean,
annual revenue?
uh,
Otsuka, do you know?
oh, not off. I think it's in the billions though. I don't know the exact number, but they're a pretty big entity. Yeah, they have a couple
Yeah,
blockbuster drugs and they do well. I think the interesting thing too with Mindset is they bought like a lot of preclinical. They bought a lot of IP. They didn't wait for a phase 3 that kind of looked really good. It really advanced research. They just went in now. So I found that kind of notable as well that they're buying into the industry
well,
and they
that was
want to.
the topic of conversation whenever we talk to people in the industry, that Mindset had by far and away the best IP. So that's the deciding factor right there. But the encouraging thing is, even with the best IP in a new emerging industry, you'd think a big pharma company would still wait to see further research to see how this is all going to perform. But it's a telling tale that they entered in now. But to answer the big
yeah,
question is, does big pharma enter into this space? The answer is yes. And that's great to hear, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. They're
yeah,
in. They're in now. I mean, the precedent has been established. I wouldn't be surprised to see others in. Uh, we haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any rumblings that anybody else is imminently going to be taken out, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is coming, and now we have an imminent phase 2 to establish MDMA assisted therapy. The second phase 3, which
Yeah.
we all assume is going to validate the industry a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's coming.
All right, gents. Well, Tuesday morning, we'll see how things go. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day Monday. Kids back to school tomorrow. Let's get these rugrats to bed and back to reality, back to work. But it's exciting, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for
I
football
mean,
too. Thursday night. Who's
Can't
playing
wait.
again? Detroit and
72 hours.
KC. No.
Detroit to Kansas City. And I don't think Chris Jones is going to be in uniform. If he is, I don't know.
really?
Still hasn't signed. Still hasn't signed. Looking for a contract.
That's.
What do you tweet over the weekend? Never been more motivated. So I don't know what that means, but
I mean, he's gonna get paid.
he's going to get paid. So
Is this a
we'll
holdout where
see.
They
he's under
gotta.
contract and he's trying to renegotiate? Because I hate this trend in the NFL football. You have a
Yeah,
contract, you
but
got to stick to your contract. Everybody wants
so
to
yes,
renegotiate after a couple years remaining. I think that's
I don't
kind of
know.
pushed it.
I'm indifferent on that one because, and I think of Scottie Pippen. My God, just you'd think.
I mean, with football, I'm for it if they are a superstar like Chris Jones or like Christian Wilkins.
Yeah.
They've got 1 year left on their contract. And the thing that fucks these guys is when the organizations can franchise tag them.
Well, how
Because
old is Chris
then
Jones?
Chris Jones
28, 29
is
maybe.
no, I think he's young. He might be younger than that. I think
Would
he might be
I
26.
would I find, because it's a quarterback league now and you can't even touch a quarterback.
You're right, Ben. He's 29.
29.
But
He's 29.
I'd like to see like the the average career that a football player plays now, say versus say like 30 years ago. Like I feel
The
like
average,
players I feel like
I think
players
the average, I think it's 3 years.
like I feel
The
like players are
average
in and
player.
out a lot quicker now versus what they were 30 years ago. A lot of people had a lot of careers that lasted 5+ years, but it just seems like
Yeah,
you
but you gotta think about it. These guys are making a lot more money now.
yeah.
I mean, some of these guys, they love football, but they're getting the shit beat out of them all the time. They're living in pain and having to rehab. Like, if I'm 29, I've got 30 or 40 mil in the bank.
Yeah, I know.
I'm pretty confident I can live off that for the rest of my life, and I can finally not do this anymore. And I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Now,
Especially when
I'm
contracts aren't guaranteed.
last thing before I go, I know
Yeah.
we got to cut this off, but have you seen? I'm not a big college football watcher, but have you seen the 455-pound offensive lineman from TCU, and also
Yeah.
the dual threat guy in Colorado? Name eludes me right now, but he's a wide receiver and a cornerback, and he actually had an interception in the red zone. Colorado.
I
Really?
didn't see that.
Oh, Hunter.
Hunter, that's it. Travis Hunter or
Hunter.
something.
Yeah, Travis Hunter.
Amazing. We're going to see like an
Yeah.
Otani, I think, in the NFL one day, or it's coming in the NFL where you're going to see a cornerback and you're going to have set plays, and then maybe a wide receiver, maybe both.
It's funny. It's funny that he plays for Deion Sanders.
Well, we have seen that. Deion, baby.
Deion Sanders.
But did he play
Yeah.
offense?
I
he
mean,
played two sports, but he didn't
yeah,
play offense in the
he
NFL.
played.
He just played
He played
cornerback.
offense.
You guys want me to educate you here?
Wait, no, he did play wide receiver sometimes.
Absolutely. With the Cowboys?
Yeah,
He played wide
yeah, he
receiver.
did.
Super
Yeah.
Bowl 30 in Glendale, Arizona. Tempe, actually. It was the Steelers and Cowboys. And on the first offensive play, Aikman fakes the ball off to Emmett and throws it 50 yards down the field. Deion catches the ball.
But he wasn't regular.
Yeah.
It might have been a trick play, but
No,
I'm talking
he'd
about
come
on a
in-
regular basis.
No, he was in packages, but he
in
did
tons
play
of
wide receiver.
packages. He played
Yeah.
he played offense for the Falcons, Niners, and Cowboys. After that, he went to
And-
Washington. I didn't see him on offense all that much.
And then FSU whooped LSU's ass last night.
What was
which
the score?
Nice. 45-28 or 45-21.
I didn't see the
or something.
Georgia look good. I know they look pretty.
I didn't watch a lick of it.
Yeah,
I'm assuming they rolled whoever they played.
I watched Michigan. Granted, they were playing East Carolina. However, they have I didn't realize a top 15 run defense in the country. East Carolina did, because outside of two long carries, they had 2 carries that were 30 and 40 yards. But outside of that, Michigan carried the ball 22 times for 50 yards. They won 30-3, but it was kind of.
Yeah, Georgia beat the hell out of whoever UT Martin is, 48-7.
Interesting.
And of course, Caleb Williams goes for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
You should have seen that throw where he's getting chased out by like a linebacker, went all the way to the sidelines on the way out, and he throws a seed, like perfect location, like 20 yards down the field. It was just this guy's going to be incredible, I think.
Number 1
He's
pick
gonna be
NFL
good.
draft? Yeah, I would say.
Oh,
if he's healthy,
right now
yeah.
he's targeted to be the number 1 pick. He's an amazing player. He kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Type of quarterback.
College football, man, it's exciting, but it's broken. It's like, I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
What do you mean? Look at the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is basically just falling apart.
It's
like I'd be pissed if I was Stanford or whoever whoever the other school was, and I'm
Oregon
playing
and
in
Washington
California.
now join the Big Ten, along with UCLA and USC. So then who's left?
I know, but if I'm a kid in college and I got to be traveling to the East Coast
Nope.
every weekend for games, like that's a pain in the ass. Like that
Pain
sucks.
in the ass.
You have an East
Like
Coast
there's
team
no
going to the
reason.
traveling.
There's Stanford
Oregon,
and another team just
Washington, UCLA, and USC. So Oregon and Washington are joining till 2026, but a year from now, USC and UCLA are joining the Big Ten.
What?
yeah, but Stanford and another team just joined the ACC.
Oh,
At least the Big Ten is in the Midwest.
you got
Like
Nebraska.
there's no more Pac-12.
That doesn't make sense
It's
though.
the Pac it's
So
down to the Pac it's
Stanford's
down to the
joining
Pac-2.
the ACC?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Oh my God.
That makes no sense. I would hate the travel there. You're right. 100%.
So their football program is going to go in the dumps.
Stanford and Cal. So Cal Berkeley and Stanford are both going to the ACC.
Wow. Well, it's only to become more evidently clear. You know, when I watched Johnny Football and I saw the donations that came into Texas A&M for $740 million based off of one player, let's just face it. Okay, thanks. You know, we give you free education. If that was an agent negotiating that deal, I'm not signing that. These players need to get
No.
paid.
They're getting paid now.
Yeah. All right, gents, let's see how things go tomorrow. For all our viewers, let us know your thoughts. Think we got some staying power here? Excited for these industries? Psychedelics looks like it could get pumping going here in the next week or two with the MAPS readouts. And let's see about rescheduling pertaining to cannabis as things start to heat up and conversations keep going. But we appreciate your feedback. And as always, make sure to subscribe to our channel. All right, gents, I'll talk to you guys later this week.
All right,
Talk
later,
soon.
guys.
Take care.
Hey everyone, so what'd you think of the interview? Did you like what we asked? Is there any information you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, make sure to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.